Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. My name is Azmat Hussain. I'm the president of UMAA, and I'm really honored to be here in front of you today to host this program with Masjid-e-Ali and your entire community. We're going to start the program off with a recitation of the Holy Quran by Brother Azlan Zaidi. Please welcome him with a loud salawat.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Tabbat yada abi lahabin wa tab. Ma aghna anhu maluhu wa ma kasab. Sayasla naran zata lahabin wa imra'atuhu hammalat al-hatab. Fi jidiha hablum min masad. Translation. May the hands of Abu Lahab perish and he himself perish. Neither his wealth nor worldly gains will benefit him. He will burn in a flaming fire, and so will his wife, the carrier of thorny kindling. Around her neck will be a rope of palm fiber. Thank you.
What a relevant selection for tonight's discussion. As you know, tonight we have a very unique and special program, and we're very honored and blessed to have in this gathering here Sayyid Mazin al-Murtada, who is the head, the trustee of the shrine of Syeda Zainab, who's traveled all the way here from Damascus, Syria. And we're going to have a very informative discussion, and we're also very honored and blessed to have a member of your community, Dr. Nuri Zaidi, who's been leading such a prominent effort, and we're going to get into more details of that. But as we discuss this blessed shrine, it's important also for us to connect our hearts. And to connect our hearts, we're going to start with the praise of Syeda Zainab. And for that, I'd like to invite Brother Ehsan to the stage to recite some poetry in honor of Bibi Zainab, to connect our hearts, to kind of start this program.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. First of all, thank you for making me part of this great program. I was asked by Dr. Azmat and Nur to say a few poetry for Bibi Zainab. Ek buland tareen salawat. Kya bataun, kya bataun, مقام زینب کا کیا بتاؤں مقام زینب کا کیا بتاؤں مقام زینب کا اسم اعظم ہے نام زینب کا اسم اعظم ہے نام زینب کا کیا بتاؤں میں تو کیا خود قصیدہ پڑھتے ہیں میں تو کیا خود قصیدہ پڑھتے ہیں میرے بارہ امام زینب کا میرے بارہ امام زینب کا کیا بتاؤں اور تیرے در پر بھی آئے گا جبریل تیرے در پر بھی آئے گا جبریل تو بھی ہو جا غلام زینب کا تو بھی ہو جا غلام زینب کا کیا بتاؤں اور سارے نبیوں سے کہہ رہا تھا خدا سارے نبیوں سے کہہ رہا تھا خدا دیکھا تم سب نے کام زینب کا دیکھا تم سب نے کام زینب کا کیا بتاؤں او ماتم شاہ اور یزید کے گھر ماتم شاہ اور یزید کے گھر دیکھ لو انتقام زینب کا دیکھ لو انتقام زینب کا کیا بتاؤں مقام زینب کا اور چل رہا ہے عزا کی صورت میں چل رہا ہے عزا کی صورت میں دو جہاں میں نظام زینب کا کیا بتاؤں مقام زینب کا اس میں اعظم ہے نام زینب کا کیا بتاؤں پر محمد وآل محمد صلوات
MashaAllah, Hassan. As always, you set the tone and mood for all of us to connect our hearts to Bibi Zainab as we hear more about her today. Today's program, we're going to be discussing an important initiative and project that we really recently started. Since, and it's really timely, last week was the 1-year anniversary of the liberation, or the fall of the Assad regime. And in this last year, the hearts of the Mu'mineen have been really unsettled. And we've been unsettled particularly because our concern for the shrine of Syeda Zainab and Bibi Sakina as well. So several months ago, we embarked on this initiative, and inshallah we'll be sharing more details about this throughout the program today. But before we move forward, we're also very blessed to have a esteemed scholar, your esteemed scholar, Maulana Sayyid Rizwan Rizvi, who also, very pertinent for tonight, did a significant amount of his religious education in Damascus, Syria by Syeda Zainab. So inshallah we hope to hear from him as well. So I'd like to welcome him with a loud salawat.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين بالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Indeed, it is honor and privilege to be standing here in front of you on this very unique program. I personally have a very close relationship and attachment to the shrine of Bibi Zainab Salamullah Alaiha, primarily because I spent 2 years in the city of Damascus. After completing my education in Qom, I traveled to Syria in 2006, and 2007 I was there for 2 entire years, enrolled into Arabic Institute in the main Damascus city. But prior to that, we had found a place, maybe like 100 yards away from the shrine of Bibi Zainab, and that's where I lived for almost a year. 2 years in total that I spent, and of course, primarily my studies were not Hausa-related studies. I was there for Arabic, but had very fond relations with the Hausa over there, and the seminaries and the scholars that were teaching over there at that time. Also, there was this, all the time when people would go for Hajj, a lot of these Hajj caravans on their way back, they would stop for 3 days just for the ziyarah of Sayyid Zainab. So this place, which is known as Sit Zainab, or Sit Zainab is basically the mantaqa was referred to as, we had my father, marhum, he traveled quite a few times after his Hajj trips, and for that reason, every time he would come, he would, one of his shauq was to buy books. And so what I got for you tonight is a display of all the books on Bibi Zainab that he bought from Syria and other places, which are part of his personal library. I was able to bring them over here for display for you to view them. This place is also very important and close to my heart. It's because I have seen a lot of miracles take place right in front of my eyes. This is firsthand I'm talking about, not things that you have heard from other people. But of course, this is something which is well documented when the reconstruction and installation of the dhari and the silver dhari and then the gold-plated dhari, all that was happening. In 1374, it is mentioned with the assistance of, that is Hijri. So you're looking at maybe 70 years ago, 80 years ago, with the support of the Iranian merchant Hajj Mehdi Bahbahani, the first phase of the expansion plan, namely the implementation of the present architectural layout, was completed. That work began in 1370 after Hijri. The Iraqi poet and orator Muhammad Ali Yaqubi Najafi, who died in 1385 Hijrah, composed the following verses recording the chronogram of this compilation. He said, talking about Hada Zari o Zainab, Qif indahu. And this is the shrine of Zainab, stand before it. And then Iraqi poet Sayyid Muhammad ibn Hussein al-Hilli also composed the following verse as a chronogram marking its completion. Sanduq Zainab qad badat, the chest of Zainab has appeared. It is also said that late Jalaluddin Humayi, his pen name was Sana, composed the chronogram for the construction, and the 2 lines that he says, it was Farsi, Ze Doraj Ismat Haq Gohari Buwat Zainab, from the treasury of divine purity, the jewel was Zainab. So in 1412, the new gold-plated, enameled silver dhari crafted by artisans from Isfahan was installed over the blessed grave through the efforts of Sheikh Muhammad Hussein Muayyad, replacing the previous silver enclosure. Also, I'd like to mention regarding the all the miracles that came true. In 1370, Muhammad Ali Habib, a Pakistani merchant and founder of Habib Bank, he donated a 12-ton silver dhari shrine enclosure to be installed over the sacred grave. It is said that he had a paralyzed child whom physicians were unable to cure. Thus he traveled in 1370 to visit the shrine of Lady Zainab, seeking her shafa'at and intercession. Upon returning to Pakistan, he found the child was fully healed. In gratitude for this miracle, so in gratitude for this miracle, he gifted this dhari of to the shrine of Lady Zainab. And on this day, its installation, a grand celebration was held, attended by high-ranking officials and ambassadors from various places. Nonetheless, there's a lot that I can speak, but we are here tonight to hear from our guest, who will inshallah be enlightening and highlighting more pertinent and relevant construction-related and other historical aspects of this dhari which has taken place. And of course, all of us have a very close attachment to it And definitely after leaving tonight, you will have even closer attachment. And we pray to Almighty that a day returns that we're able to freely and easily go back to the shrine of Bibi Zainab once again, inshallah, for the ziyarah. Thank you very much. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
Thank you, Manasab, for that very pointed and direct statements. And I think your connection there is also something that means a great deal for this program here tonight. You know, in the state of New Jersey, I was recently listening to a program that I think was recorded during COVID, where Dr. Aftab and Jafar Naqvi were being where they were being interviewed on the history of Shiism in North America. And there were some other, Dr. Asad Sadiq and others were on that, and they were talking about the long history and legacy of the state of New Jersey's contribution to the spread of Shiism in North America. And I feel like that legacy of strong leaders and advocates for Shiism from the state of New Jersey continues with Professor Nuri Zaidi. Recently, I've heard of Dr. Nuri Zaidi for many years, but only recently, in the last 3 months, have I gotten the chance to connect with her directly. She has been speaking at the UMAA conferences and been hearing about this professor. She actually teaches at University of Maryland, the same school that I graduated from, but we never had the chance to connect until really this last UMAA conference, and that was when she had overheard, and I had overheard her experience in Syria, and she had overheard the project that I had been working on. And from there, I really got to know Dr. Nuri Zaidi, and really, inshallah, you're going to hear more tonight. But I think what you're going to see with her is the strength of an Azadar woman. That when someone commits their life to the Ahlul Bayt, and what that strength can lead, regardless of them being a woman. And we're really proud of all the efforts and work she's been doing for the past 20 years, or however many years. 20 years she's been going to the shrine, but 10 to 15 years of academic work, and how that really is culminating in this initiative and project we have here. She recently was awarded the National Endowment of Humanities grant, a very prestigious grant, for her forthcoming manuscript on Bibi Zainab. That many international press, have been, including Cambridge Press and others, have actually picked up this publication, and she's determining which one to go with. But we're really excited and honored, Dr. Noor, for all the work you've done, and inshallah, please, we're really looking forward to hearing your remarks tonight. Please welcome her with a loud salawat.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Oh, it's such a pleasure to be here with all of you. And like Dr. Azmat Hussain said, there's something special about being with your own community and your friends and your families. So I'm so delighted to be here. But mostly, first of all, I just want to say I'm so grateful for all of you for being here. I know it is a Monday night. It is a freezing cold tonight. And to be honest, we didn't really know what to expect in terms of turnout and who would show up. But we're so grateful to have all of your presence here today. And I was actually saying to my mother today, I was like, I'm so worried. I actually don't know who's going to come and how it's going to turn out because of the confluence of factors. And my mother told me that for something like this in the service of the Ahlul Bayt, those that come are meant to come, and they are meant to be here by those esteemed figures themselves. And so I just want to say, may all of you be blessed eternally for this effort that you made in coming here tonight. And if there is anything in your path or in your way right now that is stalled or halted, I hope this effort helps propel you forward. And I think we all stand by that. I have to say a few more thank yous because you all are my community. So thank you to Maulana Rizwan, of course, for his guidance and support. For all of us, in our good times and our not so good times, he really is a stalwart pillar of our community. And of course, to many of our leaders of our community, our seniors, our respected elders, I'm really honored by your presence. So thank you all for being here. And so, I often say, apologies, about Syeda Zainab that she is a woman whose voice echoes throughout centuries, and unfortunately I'm dealing with a voice that is not that strong today, so I hope that it holds out and that we can make it through this program. So Dr. Azmat Hussain referred to the fact that we've been doing a series of programs on Bibi Zainab in different places across the North America, so in Toronto, in Idara, in Washington, and we'll be in other places. And we've been having different conversations, and I thought what I would do is piece together parts of those remarks and give it here. But Dr. Azmat Hussain mentioned a word, legacy, and it got me thinking because I looked at Maulana Rizwan and Sayyid Mazen Murtada sitting together, and I thought about their fathers, actually, both of whom I knew. And it got me thinking about legacies and the legacies our parents leave behind and the legacies that I think we all hope that we will leave behind when we are gone. Not just as individuals, certainly as individuals, right, the legacies that we have, but also as a community. And so I think tonight can also be thinking about what is our legacy as a community. I met both of their fathers early in my career, early in my research on Syeda Zainab and the Syeda Zainab Shrine in completely different contexts. Both of them, Maulana Tilmiz and Sayyid Mazen's father, Dr. Hani Murtada. And I can say truly that both of them were extraordinarily helpful to me as a young woman and as a young scholar starting out in my career. And now I can say the same for both of them. And especially in this last year, I will say that I have leaned on both of them for support as I finish my manuscript, so thank you both for that support. And, I will say that back in 2009 or 2012 or whenever it was that I came across both of their fathers, I doubt that they would have ever imagined this particular scenario with both of their sons here and me and all of you listening to this, but I think it is just an example of how Allah's plans are always the greatest plans, and they are the longest of plans, and then sometimes in a moment you realize that it's all been leading towards certain things. So I know that they are certainly both a credit to their fathers, and I hope that all of us can be that as well for our parents. And I should say that I'm very fortunate to have both of my parents here, so I'm grateful for that. And may all of our parents be granted the highest degree of Jannah, those who are not with us, and we pray for those who are. So, this question of legacy, I think that is it's something that we sometimes in our daily lives and the day-to-day bustle of things, we forget to think about that, of what our legacy is and what our legacy is going to be. And the thing is, your legacy is not just something that happens when you're gone. It is something that you build in the moment when the moment calls for it. And so our task and my task and all of our tasks today is to make you motivated and passionate about this project of revitalizing and reopening up the Syeda Zainab Shrine, not only to help that be part of our legacy as a Shia community, because I want that, but also to make this project and this shrine a reflection of her legacy as a figure and what she means to our faith and our religion. And I will say, I don't think I have to work particularly hard in this audience to sell you on how important she is or how important her shrine is, so I don't have to do that much heavy lifting. But I will talk a little bit, obviously, of the exceptional importance of Syeda Zainab to our faith, and then how that translates to the importance of her shrine. Now, we do know how central the figure of Zainab bint Ali is in our faith. Just a towering figure, right? A woman of unparalleled courage and piety and knowledge. There are infinite words, like Asinbai recited so beautifully, that we can say in praise of Bibi Zainab, a woman who carried on the message of our beloved Prophet, peace be upon him, and Khadija and Ali and Fatima and Hassan and Hussein. A woman who was named by the Prophet after her father, right? Zainab, the adornment of her father. A woman who is also known as alima ghair mu'allim, one who has knowledge without being taught. And of course, it is fitting, right, that would be her name, because we know that the Prophet, peace be upon him, told us that I am the city of knowledge, and Ali is the gate to that knowledge. And so we... And wa ali Muhammad. And if our Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam was, if he was the door to that city, then it is fitting that Zainab, of course, is the adornment of the door to that city of knowledge. And we know her, and I think so many of us women are also inspired by her and take from her example, because she is a woman who we knew endured, right? Endured unimaginable tragedy and loss. But she endured until even endurance was tired. And she was a woman who was put in chains and paraded around in an attempt to humiliate her, but she was never broken and she was never bowed, and she never strayed from that mission. And she is a woman that ensured for us, all of us sitting here today, 1,400 years later, she ensured for us that hope and that message did not die on the fields of Karbala, but that every year and in every place where we mention her, that spirit and that message lives again and is renewed. And I think most importantly, she is a woman whose voice, speaking against injustice, speaking against tyranny, is never more relevant than it is today. And I think we really need to take that into account, because we see the world around us and we know the forces that speak out against our religion, against Islam. And I think at a moment where the status of Muslim women, the status of women in Islam is often weaponized as a topic against our faith, people use that to criticize our faith, there is no more better example than Zainab bint Ali to combat that rhetoric and those conversations. Now, I could obviously tell you endless stories about Syeda Zainab, but you would know all of them. But what I want to do is share with you a couple of ways in which she resonates with other people, just from my experience as being a professor, because I think sometimes we take for granted these figures that we are so fortunate to grow up with, but most people are not fortunate enough to know about that. So, most of the time, and I'm saying this because the majority of the time that I speak about Bibi Zainab, I'm actually not fortunate enough to do it in a room full of people I know, right? Or a room full of people who are inclined to already love her, and not a room full of people who are even Muslims, right? I am a professor of history. I'm not a religious studies scholar. I'm not an Islamic studies scholar. I teach Middle East history. And so most of the time when I'm speaking about Bibi Zainab, it is in a room full of people who are not only not really Muslim, I mean, they're certainly not Shia. Oftentimes they're not even Muslims. And when I attend academic conferences, it's a diverse audience. So most people are not inclined to already know her story. Dr. Azmat Hussain mentioned this, National Endowment of the Humanities Award, and I'm only bringing it up as a way to tell you that everybody out there, I think we often shy away from talking about these topics out in public. We think that they are not academic topics. We think they are not topics that people widely will be interested in. But I can tell you that winning that fellowship is not any reflection of me, but it is a reflection of the fact that people out there think that this is a story worth telling. And they want to learn more about it, and they want to hear more about it. And so I just am incredibly fortunate, right, that there are people out there who want to hear more about Syeda Zainab. And some of you might know that my research assistant for the last few years is a Palestinian PhD student, and some of you may have heard me talk about her. And her field work, she's a PhD student in psychology, and so her field work for the last many years has been interviewing Palestinian women who are refugees in Jordan. And so obviously as a psychology PhD, she's having these difficult conversations with women about what they've endured in their lives. And she often tells me that, she has begun to hear in the conversations of these women and what they endured stories of Bibi Zainab. And when she hears the stories of these women, she remembers Bibi Zainab's trial. And this is a student who knew nothing about Syeda Zainab before that we started working together. But a couple of months ago, I think in appreciation for the resilience of what Syeda Zainab went through, she actually messaged me and she asked me, how does one even become Shia? How should I become a Shia? And I think, for me, I think that has to be our task, all of us, to represent her in a way that appeals beyond just our sect or even beyond just Muslims, right? Because we have these powerful examples and we have to find a way to talk about them in a way that reaches out. And the things that make Syeda Zainab so extraordinary, I should say, are also obviously things that make her shrine so important. And I think many of us just know that intrinsically, but it's worth thinking about what makes this shrine so special, and why is it so important for all of us to come together as a community to support it. It is truly, one of the few shrines to a woman in Islam. If you think about it, there's not that many you can think of. And that alone makes it exceptionally important. And it is not just any woman, it is the granddaughter of our beloved prophets. And so that gives it a status, that gives the maqam a status that is so vital to our faith. But I will say that what interests me, I'm speaking both as a person of faith, but also as a historian. And what interests me as a historian about the shrine is that it's actually very unique amongst the other shrines in the Shia world, many of which a lot of you here have visited. So I'm sure many people here have visited and done ziyarah in Iraq or Iran. And you understand how those shrines work, and they're large institutions. Some of you may have heard the term Ataba, right? The organizations that run the Shia shrines. But the grave and the shrine of Syeda Zainab has been administered entirely differently, and it's actually quite unique. It has been administered by one family, the Murtada family, for 8 centuries. So the shrine and the land around the Syeda Zainab grave was bequeathed, so it was given over as a charitable endowment, a waqf, in the year 1367. And in that year, Sayyid Hussein ibn Musa al-Musavi, Sayyid Mazen's great-great-great-grandfather, he donated all of that land and the land around the grave to this holy purpose, right? So he gave it over as a waqf. And he named his descendants as the custodians. And that would be passed from father and cousin to son through generations. Right? And the waqf that was written over 8 centuries ago stipulated that it could never be invalidated and it could never be transferred. So that means, Islamically, that the land can never be used for any other purpose except for the shrine. And it also means that no matter what politics or government come and go. And it also means that no one but the Murtada family can have custody over it. And that waqf that was written over 8 centuries ago has been validated throughout the centuries by different judges and different Sharia courts. So for example, under the Ottoman Empire, right, which we know is a Sunni empire, but in 1601, the Ottomans granted a firman in their Sharia courts that affirmed this right of the Murtada family to the shrine. And so if you think about 8 centuries, this is a really long time, but think about the life of 8 centuries and what that means and what kind of history has passed, right? Through the Ottomans and the French and Syrian independence and all the regimes and governments that came and went throughout all of that time, that 8 centuries, the Murtada family have administered the shrine. And they have done so through a sense both of obligation and love to Syeda Zainab. But also I would say, and you're going to hear from Sayyid Mazen Murtada as well, I think also out of obligation to their ancestors, right? And the people who have done this for so long as a way to uphold that legacy. And so I think that's why, thinking about our legacies is also so important for us. And of course you will see, the Murtada family I think are really unique. They're not foreigners to Syria, right? They are from Damascus. They are Arab Damascene men. They are not religious clerics. They have been teachers and engineers and physicians like Dr. Hani Murtada, Mazen's father, and extraordinarily astute businessmen like Mazen. So they have come from all walks of life, but they carry a heavy weight. And I guess when the time comes and they are called to take on that responsibility, they return to take that up. And in some ways, they're not that different from us, those of us who decide that we have legacies to uphold. And in the years that I have worked on the shrine, it is now, like Dr. Azmat Hussain said, it's like 15, 20 years, you lose track of time. But in all the years that I have worked on the shrine, I will say that it is a really, really unique space. And there's so much about the shrine that makes it unique to Syria and unique to history. And I think we often don't talk about that, right? It has such a rich and fascinating history, throughout the years, and especially in this last year. I've been very lucky that Mazen and his father before him have sent me just images and documents and stories and names of people who came to visit this shrine, people whose stories would have been lost to history had this shrine not preserved those photos, those documents, those narratives. And so I will say that one part of our project, which Dr. Azmat Hussain is going to talk a little bit more about, is our project to revitalize the Syeda Zainab Shrine and District. One of the projects that we will be working on is preserving and digitizing the shrine's archives so that scholars from all over the world will have access to the stories, right? So it's not just a handful of us who already know about Bibi Zainab, but everyone has the ability to work on it. The other thing that I think everyone here will be very passionate about is helping the shrine preserve its unique artifacts, right? Those of you who have been to Karbala or Najaf, or even been to places like Turkey, you know the incredible value of historical artifacts. And the shrine was in possession of many of them. And unfortunately, in recent years, some of those items have been looted. And we know that when things are lost and they are lost to history, you don't get them back. They are irreplaceable. So really want to step in and help the shrine preserve and protect that history and heritage so that it is not lost to time. And obviously, Dr. Azmat Hussain, I think after all of this, he will speak more about our project. But one thing I did want to point out is that when I met Dr. Hani Murtada, maybe 15 years ago now, I told him, I wanted to write the history of the Syeda Zainab Shrine, but I told him that I don't want to just write the history of the last 20 or 30 years, because that history of Bibi Zainab's Shrine for the last 20 or 30 years has been one, unfortunately, of sectarianism and division. It has been a story of violence at times and of loss, and too many people think now that that is the story of the shrine. But it is not. Right? 20 or 30 years, the last 20 or 30 years, that's only just but a moment in the span of history, right? A moment in the 8 centuries that they have governed the shrine. And so we really want to tell a different story about Bibi Zainab and about her shrine. And so that is why we have been moving forward with a vision called Nothing But Beauty. And it is a mission to revitalize, develop, and reopen, of course, Ziyara, to the Syeda Zainab Shrine. And that, of course, Nothing But Beauty, is taken from Bibi Zainab's powerful, powerful words, right? Ma ra'aytu illa jamila. I see nothing but beauty. And we all know that she recited those words in the courtyard of Yazid when he brought her in front of the heads of her family members in an attempt to humiliate her. And he asked her, what do you see now when you see the heads of your brother and your children and your families on a spike? What do you see now about God? And she replied, Ma ra'aytu illa jamila. I see nothing but beauty. I see nothing but the glory of God. And I think we are all in our lives always moved by these powerful words. I know I am when I hear them. But I want to tell you a story also about them and what power they hold. And I'm going to tell you a little story from my own research, and I hope I can get through it. So some of you might know that in the last 7 or 8 years, I have been working on these stories of Iraqi women, Shia women, who were political prisoners under Saddam. And I started doing this work because it seemed at times like the doors were closed to Syria and there was no pathways to get back to Bibi Zainab. So I started going to Iraq and I began doing these interviews, and it kind of happened in a roundabout way. In 2018, I was invited by the Shrine of Imam Hussain at Sabah Hussainiya to a conference of political prisoners. And to be honest, it wasn't my topic at all, but I got an invite, so I went. And I walked into a conference room, an auditorium, and there were rows and rows of men sitting at the front of the auditorium. And for hours, they got up and they told their stories one by one of their experiences being prisoners under Saddam Hussein. And I heard these exceptionally painful stories that these men endured. And I listened, and I was sitting at the back of the auditorium with just 2 rows of women. And then one of them turned to me and she asked me, "What are you doing here? Like, why are you at this conference?" And so I told her I was here. I was in Iraq to write about Bibi Zainab. And she said, "You should write about us too. We're all Zainab here." And I only realized in that conversation that these women had also been political prisoners. They also had been put in chains. They also had been in the prisons of Saddam. But the thing is, they weren't spoken about and they weren't given a chance to speak. But they had endured this tremendous loss and tragedy too. And in the stories of listening to them, I heard for 7 years their stories of loss, right? Women who were never given the chance to become mothers or wives, women who went years without seeing the sun, women who endured so much and yet continued to say that it was the example of Bibi Zainab that got them through their ordeal. And they would say to me, if Bibi Zainab, Syeda Zainab, could endure being put in chains and then being put in Yazid's dungeons, well, that they could endure whatever befell them, right? And there's a story of one prisoner in particular, a young girl. Her name was Maysoon al-Asadi, and she was 20 years old when she was sentenced to be executed by Saddam's revolutionary court. And so Maysoon was put in solitary confinement for months in the prison, right? Because they wanted to break your spirit before they took your life. So she was put in this solitary confinement for months, but when it was finally time for her to be taken for her execution, she was allowed out of her cell, and she was given time to say goodbye to her fellow prisoners. And so some of them tell me about her last moments, and they say that when she was let out, she repeated for her fellow Shia prisoners 2 lines from Bibi Zainab. The first is that she reminded them that tyrants will all fall. No matter what sect or what background, no matter if it's 1 year or 10 years or 30 years or 50 years, we know that tyrants do fall, and it is a reminder to us to not tie in our lot with them. So she repeated this line for her fellow prisoners. She said, the line from Bibi Zainab's khutbah, "This respite," and she's saying it to Yazid, "this respite that you have been given is but God's way of letting the tyrants grow in arrogance that their downfall may be complete." And then she, of course, when she was saying goodbye to her fellow prisoners, when she was taken for execution, she said, "Ma ra'aytu illa jamila," I saw nothing but beauty. And I had the opportunity to go to Abu Ghraib in January. Some of you may have read about it. And I was able to go into the execution chambers, the ones that had been sealed for years, right? And no one had been able to go in there, but they pried open the iron bars for me and they let me walk inside, and there is dust that covers everything. And it is a place, you stand in there and you realize that Maysoon and tens of thousands of others had lost their lives in there. And it is a place where you see truly nothing but darkness and the end. That's all you see there. And I am reminded, and I think about what it means that in a moment like that, someone can say, "Ma ra'aytu illa jamila." And if she could say it, think about what it means for Syeda Zainab to say it. Right? "Ma ra'aytu illa jamila," I saw nothing but beauty. It is not just that statement, the ultimate act of submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is no more greater statement than that. But I think, and I would like that we think, that it is more than just that. It is, I think, also a statement of hope for the future. It is that you can see beyond the present moment of the tragedies and the violence and the horrible circumstances that you are in, and you can see a future that is better and bigger and more beautiful. That you can see in these tragedies the sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so I think what we want to do is build a future that really reflects that. Ma ra'aytu illa jamila, I saw nothing but beauty. And we don't want to build, those of us who are working on this project, and we're going to talk more about it, we don't want to build a future on violence or division or bloodshed. We want to build something that honors Syeda Zainab and also unites the Syrian people. Because I think we have to also understand that the long-term stability of the shrine and our ability to visit the shrine depends on everyone understanding her status and the value of that shrine. And so it is on behalf of this project that we have been going around and talking to people. And it feels like it's been a year, but it's been a week. And I'm sure Dr. Azmat Hussain is going to say more about it. But I do want to just say me personally before I hand it over to Mazen that it feels like in some ways the last week has been almost miraculous. And I think that they might share my perception of this. There's this saying that there are decades where nothing happens, and then there are weeks where decades happen, and it feels a little like that's what's happening here. We have been so fortunate to go and talk about this project, and honestly, there'll be a throwaway comment or an idea that one of us makes about a potential project, and then someone will come up to us and say, hey, let me help you with that. Do you know so-and-so person? I can do this. I can help you with this. And it really, to me, has been an extraordinary and surreal and hopeful and amazing experience. And I think sometimes, at least I've been feeling this, that sometimes Allah's plans are so opaque and you can't see them. And you know they're there, but you can't see them. And there are times where you see it so clearly. And I think for us, or at least for me, that this has been a time that I see it so clearly. And that in a way, I think we can all talk about how we have known of each other, but only in this last, few weeks, months have come together. It feels like it's been forever, but maybe we only came together when it was time for us to build on this legacy with all of you. So, I am here to tell you, and Syed Mazen will tell you a little bit more about this as well, that it is us, the Shias in North America, who are meant to do this work, and we are going to do this work, to revitalize the shrine and to open it up. And we don't need, and my message to all of you is that we don't need our destinies as North American Shias to be dictated by other countries or other places. We can shape our own destiny. We can do that work. And so this is what I'm going to say to all of you before I hand it over to Syed Mazen. Dr. Azmat Hussain is going to talk more about this project, but I am telling you that we want your du'as, we want your support, we want your energy, we want your resources, we want your time, we want your public support. So I'm gonna preface it with that. And we also wanted to give you a chance to hear from Syed Mazen Mortaza, so I'm going to introduce him now. And I will also say that because obviously of the sensitivity of this, we are going to say no recordings please of him. We're going to turn off the live stream so he has the opportunity to talk to you freely about the situation in Syria and what's been going on. Syed Mazen Mortaza, obviously you've heard from my remarks, comes from a very long line of the caretakers of the maqam of Syeda Zainab, and he is following in the footsteps of his father and his grandfather and all those that came before him, who dedicated their life to preserve and protect the shrine of Syeda Zainab in the most unthinkable circumstances. Mazen himself has spent most of his life in Syria, but he does have an engineering degree from Canada and a master's in investment and finance. He also has his own business. It is one of the leading construction companies in Syria, and he has been in banking and finance, so he just represents this really unique perspective, which he is here with us to share. So thank you.